Recorded in their mother's basement, Super Nerdland brings you Graded Point 5, where in a comic book it would be worth less than the polybag it comes in.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Graded Point 5. I'm your host Jason. With me tonight are Jordan and John as usual, and our special guest Gwen. Before we get rolling, huge spoiler alert. We're not going to be holding anything back. We're going to be going in depth as possible. So you're going to get stuff spoiled. If you don't want to be spoiled, you probably should stop listening right now. But I'm going to assume you're here, so let's get into it. Alright, guys. I know specifically with me and Gwen, the idea of a disabled superhero has a certain resonance to it. Or, it sticks to us personally being that, Gwen and I are disabled. God. This had been close to 2 years ago now, Gwen. You and I sat down and started talking about tonight's topic.
Yep.
And that's going to be the original Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. Also known as DC's biggest fucking slap in the face to the disabled community.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
First off, a little bit of background. Batgirl first showed up in Detective Comics 359, the $1 million debut of Batgirl, back in 1967. Created by William Dozier, Julius Schwartz, and Carmine Infantino. Some pretty big names in DC. What's there to say? Jim Gordon, perennial Batman ally's daughter. And she winds up meeting up and working with the Bat. It makes sense, being that Jim Gordon has been an integral part of the Batman family since long before any of us were even born. But we're not going to cover, her generic exploits as Batgirl. There were a few that were pretty cool. But I think the character really didn't pick up traction, at least with me, until the 80s. Before then, literally, we're talking a character who was created just because so many people were saying, hey, Batman and Robin, yeah, the inevitable gay joke. So DC wanted a female counterpart that would simultaneously appear in comic books and on the 60s Adam West show. So they created Batgirl.
Just so they could go, it's not gay, we promise.
Yeah, basically. And,
totally not gay.
It was, how do I put this? Not only to, deflect the whole Batman and Robin being gay thing, but to, subvert the trope in comic books where a woman is nothing but a damsel in distress. We have a woman who is on par with, Batman and Robin, who is an equal to them, and doesn't need to be, rescued constantly.
More like equal to Robin, because Robin needed a lot of rescuing, and she wasn't that great in most of the Batgirl comics, to be honest.
Not until later, when, like the 80s, she started being able to operate on her own decently,
Yeah.
And they didn't have to fall back on the, damsel in distress bullshit. But the funny thing is, Batgirl was not the first female Bat character. That was actually Batwoman, who actually, most of the time, was a damsel in distress, despite supposedly being on the same level as Batman and Robin.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on her.
Yeah. Nothing but, we're just going to have a damsel in distress in a costume kind of thing. And that's nothing to say...
How could that possibly go wrong?
Yeah, and that's nothing to say of what DC did wrong with Batgirl later on. Or Batwoman later on. Where they just turned her into one long-running gay joke without a punchline because they refused to let her get married.
Yep. That was really annoying.
Yeah, especially considering Marvel married off Northstar to his boyfriend at pretty much the exact same time. That was one of the.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a blowback.
Yeah, there was none. Nobody cared. But that's the thing. up until very recently, Marvel has always been the more forward-thinking and progressive, where DC's always been kind of stodgy, lodged in the past, you know? Luckily, within the past few years, this is severely lightened up, and DC is now, in my opinion, far better than Marvel.
I'm not going to disagree.
It's the thing of Marvel's always about humans. DC's always about gods. So how do you humanize gods? And DC have never really done that until recently. Even though they had to go through the New 52 to do that, which
New 52 ruins everything.
It really does.
Oh, fucking hell.
But yeah. So now we've got this Batgirl who is better than Batwoman, who probably should have been just a replacement as Batwoman.
Right.
I don't know. Something about calling her Batgirl when she's... God, when she first showed up, she was already college age, wasn't she?
Yeah, I don't know why. Why couldn't they just come up with a different bird? Like, you got Batman, you got Robin. Why Batgirl? Why not just, like, Dove or something?
Dove was already in use.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, there had to be something that wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure, but come on, man. Come on, you gotta understand. It was the fucking 60s. They were fucking lazy with the way that they named characters.
I mean, come on. Clayface, Joker, or not Joker, well, Joker too. A lot of Batman's rogues gallery is so lazily named. It's literally like, here's your defining characteristic, you named it, deal with it.
Well, Superman's also pretty lame, to be honest, and then Wonder Woman, woo, she's wonderful.
Well, no, you know why she's called Wonder Woman?
Why did they call her Wonder Woman?
You know her main weakness is bondage, right?
No, I didn't know that was her weakness.
As she was initially designed.
All the older stuff, I read a lot of the
as she was
on her.
As she was initially designed, her one weakness was being put into bondage by men. That's why. Obviously, I'm joking, but that's why they call her Wonder Woman. Because what else would be a man's power fantasy?
Yes.
God fucking damn it.
Well, here's the thing.
Shit.
Wonder Woman was created by a man. That's all I'm going to say. And I would love to bring that point up to all these faggots recently who are just like, oh, Wonder Woman's the feminist ideal. Wonder Woman was created by a man who had BDSM issues.
You call them issues.
Yep.
Well, no, I call them issues because he brought them out in comic and not within the safe confines of, like, a bedroom.
Right,
And
yeah, that is fair.
If you go back and read the early Wonder Woman, it is fucking ridiculous.
Oh, it's so horrible.
Oh, I'm going to tie people up, and yep, now Steve Rogers has got to come in and save it. Oh no, this is ridiculous.
It was Steve Trevor.
No, I prefer it to be Steve Rogers.
That's Captain America.
Yeah, Captain America coming in and saving Wonder Woman. Think of the crossover. I mean, since the animated show, was it Avengers Assemble? I think.
I like that show.
Yeah, but it's the design of Captain America. It looks just like Steve Trevor did in the original Justice League, and now I can't unsee it. Every time I refer to Steve Trevor, I always call him Steve Rogers.
Now, here's the funnier thing. Did you all know that Wonder Woman was originally made to be the secretary of the Justice League?
Why?
Not even a full member. She was supposed to be the secretary. And I'm pretty sure John, you can back me up on that, can't you?
I can 100% back you up, my friend. They basically made it to just be like, well, we needed to be kind of superhero-y, but obviously she's a woman, so she can't be in the full team.
God damn it.
She's going to be the secretary.
Stole my fucking joke.
But yeah, Batgirl was made to get around these tropes and pratfalls and shit. To be a strong female who, while not strong enough to lead, because it's the 60s, we don't want to give women that much value.
Right.
All of Jason's liberalism is coming out on this fucking episode. Jesus Christ, I'm just sitting here going,
oh, dude, we haven't even gotten to the point where I get to rant.
Oh, fucking hell.
Oh, God. But yeah. I mean, over the years, Barbara Gordon's become a stronger character. She actually had a romantic subplot through most, I want to say, the 70s and early 80s with Dick Grayson.
Right.
Which, I guess if you can't settle for the bat, you'll take the bird.
No one really gets the bat.
Catwoman?
For very long. Not for long. It
Yeah,
doesn't on again,
dude,
off again.
They've been on and off for 30 years. In Batman's world, that's as close to a real relationship as he can get.
You're not wrong.
That's the only pussy he can get.
Literally, Bruce Wayne's just sitting there going, I've been alternately beating the shit out of and fucking the same woman for 30 years. Maybe I ought to settle down.
Actually, the amount of time really just depends on the
well, you look at it the other way.
Continuity you're in.
Well, Glenn, look at it the other way. 30 years of alternately beating and fucking the same woman. Isn't that just an Irish wedding? Like, really?
Hey.
No, because Batman doesn't drink, so...
Yeah.
That we know of.
No, actually, they've made that point several times that he does not drink.
One of those
Right.
fucking straight edge pricks. It's like, no, I'm not going to put anything into my body that's not that's a stimulant or a depressant. He is basically a hipster. Batman is a hipster, everyone.
All right, that's going to be the quote of the episode.
Batman's
is
a
a straight edge prick.
But yeah, let's see. Ooh, okay. You know what? We've kind of mentioned, enough of the early stuff. Let's get right into the point where Batgirl became probably one of my favorite characters and ceased being Batgirl. The Killing Joke. The Killing Joke.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
I just came just mentioning that.
Yeah. And we are not going to talk about the absolutely butt-fuck horrible animated adaptation
No,
of The Killing Joke.
No,
No.
let's fucking talk about that,
No,
please.
we're not. No.
We have to. You have to talk about that because they fucking ruined her character in that fucking animated fucking bullshit.
No.
They
You
did.
know what? You want this done, nigger? You're doing it.
Oh, you want me? Okay, I'll fucking do it then. You take
Do
what
it.
is probably one of the best made female characters in all of DC, aside from maybe Wonder Woman and Hawk Girl, and you turn her into basically a fucking teenager pining after her fucking dad figure. And you spend 30 fucking minutes on just that! And
Yeah.
then
That was
they have
horrible.
sex, and then that's why she stops being Batgirl. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, you fucking say, okay, yeah, I'll fucking keep
Preach
going,
it.
Jason. You fucking son of a bitch.
Teach it.
Get it all
Oh.
out. It's cathartic.
It was the fucking worst too, because like I didn't give a shit about Batgirl until I initially read The Killing Joke because of what it turned her into. Because I think her run as Oracle was much more interesting than her run as Batgirl, because it exemplified how fucking smart of a person Barbara was, on par with, if not smarter than, fucking Bruce Wayne, which is no small feat in the DC universe.
Yeah.
And just... But she was still cool as Batgirl because, she was somebody on par with Robin, sitting to... Going back to what you had said before, Jason, she kind of exemplified that strong female character who could go toe-to-toe with the boys. And then the fucking animated adaptation comes out, and it's just, oh yeah, all the things that she did in that fucking story is just because the guy that she liked didn't like her back in the same way. Oh no, it's so hard to be a woman these days. Fucking cunts.
And they really turned it into, like, going from, the initial idea of a strong female character, they made her into a weaker, emotionally insecure little girl.
Yeah, they did.
And that, my friends, is why you never watch the Killing Joke animated movie.
Well, no, you do. Just cut out the first 28 minutes, literally, get it, take it to any sort of video editing software, start it at 28 minutes, cut out the first 28, you're fine. You're fine. It's fucking great.
Yeah, it is. When they actually get to the graphic novel section, and not just this tacked on horrible abomination, it turns into a decent adaptation again.
Yeah, and it fucking sucks, because I know the only reason they added that first 28 minutes was to pad it out to make it feature length, so they could show it in fucking theaters.
Yep. Which they only did for one day, mind you.
Yeah, so I hope it was fucking worth it.
It wasn't. It really wasn't. Okay. So yeah,
they should have introduced her as someone as pre-Oracle rather than what they did. You know, it was smart, very smart.
Honestly, I'm gonna give a what-if scenario that would have redeemed the Killing Joke adaptation entirely. Set it in the future, like the current day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But have it be the future for the storyline. Have Barbara in her wheelchair recounting the events of the Killing Joke.
I was just thinking that myself.
And then at the end, have her wheel herself to a computer, boot up, and there's the fucking Oracle mask. There you go.
That would have been amazing.
There you go.
Yeah,
I saved
fantastic.
the movie for everybody, right?
Oh, god fucking damn it.
But yeah, Killing Joke. The crippling of Barbara Gordon and the mental breaking of Jim Gordon. Obviously, the big takeaway here, as far as Barbara's concerned, is Joker shows up at Jim Gordon's door, Barbara answers it, and Joker immediately shoots her through the fucking spine.
Well, I mean, what else are you gonna do? He's a fucking Joker. That's what you do. You just, you know, instead of trick-or-treating, it's trick-or-shooting.
Do you remember the scene in Killing Joke where Bruce is at Barbara's bedside in the hospital?
Mm-hmm.
And she says this time he's gone, going all the way there with it?
Yeah.
That even for DC, that was the first real big time you saw Joker just fucking point blank shoot someone.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He was always, torture them, he'd gas them, he'd give them, the Joker toxin, that would kill him, but it was never so blunt as just click boom,
Right, yeah. Well, because it's always been whenever the Joker does something, it's to send a fucking message. So for him to get to that point to go click boom on a motherfucker, there's a very good reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird for me. I think the Killing Joke pretty much, even though it's an originally it was an Elseworlds story, so it was the main continuity. It basically defined every single character in the book. I mean, it's definitely defined the modern version of the Joker without question.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oracle and Barbara Gordon, at least up until the last few years, but I'm sure we'll get into that.
Oh, we're going to rant about that later, don't worry.
And it is unequivocally established Commissioner Gordon and the relationship between Batman and the Joker, without question. And it's a single book, It's one graphic novel, and it is one of the best things I've ever read in my entire comic reading history. It's so good. It's absolutely fantastic, just from a character perspective.
I'm going to counterpoint you on that, John. I agree with what Alan Moore said about it. How he's always, tried to trump up his own writing, and he's like, this is the best thing I ever made. It's so deep and everything.
Mm-hmm.
He said something about the Killing Joke that I like. He doesn't like it because at the end of the day, it's just a Batman story. It doesn't go into any other themes or ideas like you're used to from Alan Moore.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, right? And this is why, because I think he said that a few years after. He said about 10 years later, didn't he?
Yeah.
And that's the point where Alan Moore was kind of, and I love Alan Moore. So what I'm about to say is said with such love and appreciation.
Hold on a sec. Pick your next words carefully, boy.
Alan Moore's a crazy bastard.
Okay.
And if he doesn't have all his comments about whether it's social issues or literature or these wide-reaching things, he sees it as a failure. The stuff that when he's because I think Alan Moore's one of the best writers ever. But when he's allowed to go and off and do whatever he wants, he can get a bit. I don't know. He can just go into some really odd tangents that don't necessarily work.
He's very meandering.
Yeah, especially recently. Like some of the best stuff he's done, in my opinion, was like Swamp Thing.
Yes.
One issue, amazing. But that was very focused. It was, you know, it was a single comic, and he didn't have enough room to do much outside that. Same with Killing Joke. And I get that looking back on it, he's like, oh, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to bring all this stuff in. But then, in my opinion, that would have kind of ruined the Killing Joke for me, you know. Having extra stuff in it, it might have just kind of gone a bit, oh, yeah, this is a bit meandering, and I don't really like what he's doing at this point. And recently, especially with like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and stuff, the later issues of that, he went off the fucking rails with some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he's got a lot more like that in his later years. Prometheus, another one where that's fantastic, but some of the issues are just like, what? About Alan Moore, you crazy bearded man.
Yeah. I've always had this strange love-hate relationship with Alan Moore. I love his work, but I hate how anal retentive and up his own ass he gets about his work.
Yeah, he's a fucking cunt. I'll be the one to fucking say it. I do not like him at all because he is so far up his own ass. Like, I get it. He's done some phenomenal fucking work. But still, this motherfucker is the most pretentious, preening cocksucker I've ever experienced in the fucking industry. It's fucking retarded.
Then you have never met fucking Grant Morrison?
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. If you think Alan Moore is a preening bastard, oh, we have sights to show you.
Also Mark Millar as well.
Shit. Gail Simone. I mean,
I think.
Yeah. Jeff Johns.
I think the difference is that to a degree I understand why he's like that, because he does put out good work.
He does.
But at the same time, it's just like, okay, dude, fucking reel it in a little bit.
Well,
I understand.
The best way to deal with Alan Moore is to read his comics and nothing else.
Yeah.
Do not
really
read
is.
or watch interviews with the man. Though, I will admit, I've watched interviews with the man, and he is fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a dick.
The reason that I wouldn't quite put Alan Moore in the same category as Grant Morrison or Mark Millar, for instance, was that if you actually listen to him, he's kind of like, he admits it entirely. Like, Grant Morrison would never admit he's a pretentious bastard. It's same with Mark Millar. They're like, oh, I've got this, I'm making this comic that ends with the main character saying, I'm fucking you in the ass. A real thing, by the way, that happened.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the last page of Wanted is...
Oh, I've never read Wanted.
Yeah, fucking hell. Don't get me started on that. Anyway,
So in other words, we're going to have an episode on Wanted eventually.
Okay,
Jesus
probably.
Christ.
Anytime we can give John an excuse to rant, it's a glorious, beautiful thing.
Well, fortunately, there isn't one in this issue because I'm not talking about Martin Millar. You're not going to bring me into that, Jordan.
Oh, don't worry, John. We're going to make you rant by the end of this episode. I guarantee it.
Oh, it's going to happen.
I can already see it on the horizon.
Now, what's really funny is we're going to make Gwen rant, too.
Just rants aplenty. But yeah, the reason that I think Alan Moore is kind of, for me at least, gets a veto is that he's a lot more self-aware, and when he's given the chance to go off-piste and rant about various different things and make crazy things, he'll completely admit he's full of shit, but he's just like, yeah, I just wanted to do something interesting, which I think's fascinating. And it's kind of it is a bit of a dick move just to be like, yeah, I'm just wasting pages because it's funny. But then again, it's a better reason than most people do it, which is, I'm trying to be arty and I'm trying to be safe and about society and stuff.
Now, back to one of my least favorite figures in comics, Gail Simone. She actually put the Joker shooting Barbara Gordon on a list of the women in refrigerators trope, which, for those who don't know, is a reference to a 1994 Green Lantern story where Major Force kills Kyle Rayner's girlfriend and literally shoves her mangled body into the fridge for him to find.
Yeah, it's kind of a trope of that time, but this is the opposite of that trope. This is, I guess, subverting it, but she's not even put in a refrigerator at all. She gets better. This is the takes a level in badass trope after surviving a bad situation.
Like, I think you'll agree with me on this, Gwen. Barbara Gordon was far more interesting and powerful a character after she got crippled.
Exactly.
It added a depth to her. Because, smart fucking move, Kim Yale and John Ostrander decided, we're not going to let Barbara go out like this. Yes, she is paralyzed, we're going to keep that. But we're going to settle down and do the right idea. And instead of letting her go, become an obscure backup character, decided to put her front and center, give her a new superhero identity as a paraplegic.
Uh-huh.
And that's how we got Oracle. The DC's #1 hacker. A woman who was the information powerhouse for the entire Batman family. For all of their friends and allies. For the entire fucking Justice League.
Mm-hmm. And she put together her own super team, and she basically led them.
Yep.
Not from the front, but not all generals lead from the front. Sometimes it's better to sit back and analyze what's going on to give the best advice.
So what you're saying, Gwen, is that she was checking out the rear.
Hey, given the ones on her team, I'd be checking their rear.
Oh, dude, would you not be staring at Black Canary's ass all the time if you could?
Of course. No fucking work would get done. I just have a fucking stool and I just lean on it and just stare.
Yeah.
Until she has the sense to remind you she's dating Green Arrow. As if that's supposed to be... I'm sorry, if you were to threaten me with a DC character and you said Green Arrow, I'd probably laugh in your face.
Yeah.
I'd be like, motherfucker, come back with, like, Hawk and Dove.
Right?
Yeah.
Give me a C-list at least, not Green Arrow. Cheap Robin Hood... I'm sorry. The dude carries a bow, one of the most lethal weapons in history, and he doesn't kill anyone.
Guys, that just shows how good of a person he is, that he doesn't kill anybody, even though he totally could.
I'm sorry, if I had a bow and a quiver full of chick arrows, I'm not going to be like, oh, boxing glove here. I'm going to be like, hey, check this out, it got C4 on it. Impact explosive.
Let's just put rabies on it.
I'm just going to shoot the Joker with an arrow coated in rabies.
Hey, it'd stop him.
Yeah. And then, I'm sorry. Here's why Green Arrow is the most useless superhero ever. They put him in the Justice League. The average power level of a Justice League villain is just 2 cunt hairs this side of omnipotence.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be. You've got fucking Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. Even Aquaman is more powerful than Green Arrow.
I liked it better when they were going against villainous super teams.
Like the Legion of Doom, yeah.
Yeah, that was more interesting than going against omnipotent villains, but yeah.
But even if they're going against Legion of Supervillains, most of them motherfuckers are bulletproof. What good is an arrow gonna do? Oh, I'm gonna hit Brainiac with a boxing glove arrow. And then Brainiac turns and just fries you.
Well,
And I'm sorry, the idea of a Marxist superhero? Mind you, I lean pretty close to socialism in some of my views. But even I look at Green Arrow, I'm just like, dude, you're going too far with this. It's too heavy-handed.
I once read a comic book called Robot Lenin. And it's basically the exact same thing as Lenin coming back in the modern day as a robot and just being like, I will bring socialism to the world. He is less socialist than Green Arrow.
Uh-huh. And it wasn't until, honestly, for me, until Kevin Smith got his hands on Green Arrow that I felt the character was human.
Mm.
Yeah.
I haven't read Kevin Smith's run.
That's the one good thing I can say about Kevin Smith is he did.
Hold on. Hear me out on this. Kevin Smith, Gwen, for your viewpoint, take the two weakest characters, one from Marvel, one from DC. For this, it would specifically be Green Arrow and Daredevil. Characters I cannot fucking stand. But you put Kevin Smith writing them, and they're good. Just don't read Widening Gyre.
Mm-hmm.
Just never read Winding Gyre. Anyone, ever. It's like if I can, bestow
the rules we should have.
If I can bestow if I can bestow one piece of advice that everyone will listen to throughout the entirety of this podcast and any other comics-based work I do, it's never read The Widening Gyre. It is horrible. And Kevin Smith is my hero, and I still say that. But yeah, back to Batgirl. So, we've got a quadriplegic, that'd be even more interesting, a paraplegic hacker, working as the information center for pretty much every major hero in the DC universe. How is this a woman in a refrigerator?
It's not. It's someone overcoming their disabilities. That's not refrigerator.
It's not even that.
Refrigerator implies dead, and then...
Well, yeah, because the entire point of the women in refrigerators trope is the idea of killing off a woman to advance the story of a male character. That is not what happened with Barbara Gordon. Her paralysis gave a spring-off point to deepen the resentment that Bruce might have for the Joker, but it also was a spring-off point to establish Barbara as a brand new character, as a character who is more beneficial to the team.
Let me back up a moment and correct you. Gail Simone's version of Women in Refrigerators specifically refers to, quote, major female characters that have been killed, mutilated, and depowered, end quote, in the interest of furthering a male
even
character.
That,
yes, she was mutilated.
Even in that, it doesn't fit.
Yes, she was mutilated, but that actually, due to John Ostrander and Kim Yale, became less of a woman in a refrigerator and more of a axis for character development.
Yeah.
Exactly. It allowed her to become someone that wasn't just a shadow clone of the Batman.
So, let's fast forward a little bit to Suicide Squad number 23 back in, I want to say it was 1989. A character called Oracle was anonymously offering her services as a hacker to the United States government's Task Force X. Task Force X, you all may be more familiar under the unofficial name, the Suicide Squad. Villains given a chance to carry out suicide missions on behalf of the American government in hopes of some sort of redemption or lightened sentence or some such. Oracle decides to offer her services and became an actual member of Task Force X a couple years later. And, literally she's gone from being third banana in a Batman series to a member of a major DC team, as well as, still working as information powerhouse and everything. And then 1992, say what you want about the Nightfall storyline, one good thing happened to it. Batman's Sword of Azrael number 1. They go so far as to say straight out that intellectually, Barbara is on par with Bruce. They finally get her out of the shadow completely and put her front and center as, here is somebody who was Batman's sidekick, but is now in every way that she can possibly manage his equal.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, she may have been in a wheelchair, but she could still defend herself, and she did so many fucking times.
Yeah, there were times in which she was attacked on the wheelchair, and she fought.
And she would, unless the story demanded it, from like a save from the Birds of Prey or something, she would always beat the living crap out of the person.
Yeah. Sometimes she'd still beat them up before ultimately losing.
But yeah, back in 96, they actually did Oracle Year 1. It was a little self-contained story arc where Yale and Ostrander told about the time right after the Killing Joke. Barbara establishing her new persona after dealing with reactive depression, and basically going from I'm broken to how do I make this work for me? Which, Gwen, I think this might be getting a little more personal, but I think that's something you and I have had to do so many times over the years.
Yeah, Birds of Prey it meant a lot, because I used to be physically well off, but some untreated injuries as a kid and other stuff, we still don't know what it is, and I'm a mess now. I was like, yeah, go, when she was Oracle, because it's like, we can still do things even if we're crippled. Crippled later in life,
Yeah.
And, there's a distinction. People that are born crippled have to learn to deal with it. But when you suddenly, I had this discussion with my mom. She was crippled from a very, very young age, but I became progressively crippled as I got older. And we had to discuss, well, what's worse? And I'm like, it's worse to be crippled later because you know what you were missing. And she said, good point.
That's the perfect point, too. And I think, at least in my life, a lot of my life has been overcoming the fact that I had all this ability that I no longer have. I've had to learn to restructure my life to play to the strengths that I still do have. To be able to get around where I'm deficient.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, Oracle was always a character that meant a lot because that's a woman who did it straight up.
Heck, male female doesn't matter. That's a person that did it straight up.
Yeah. Actually, I think I kind of like Oracle better because she's a woman.
Really?
Wow, dude, that's sexist.
Well, no. Think about all the times in comic books men have become crippled. When Bane broke Batman's back. With those kind of stories, it's always been almost a show of power, them rising back up,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Oracle subverted that and it's like, no, fuck it. I've got more useful skills anyway. I don't need to get better. I'm good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And because I love the fact that it fucks so much with the tropes in comics that apply to women. It is literally nothing but spitting in the face of all these people who, put women in refrigerators.
Yep.
And you could say that's sexist, but I'm going to point something out to you. You don't hear of men in refrigerators.
Well, you don't because nobody cares. Well, one specific example you could point to is Jason fucking Todd.
Jason Todd does not count because of the circumstances involved. It was, they voted on killing him.
He technically fits the male equivalent of that because he was literally killed off to do what? Advance Batman's story. You don't talk about that because it's expected. You expect that if a hero has a sidekick, the sidekick is going to be crippled or killed off. Now, granted, I understand why people get more upset when it happens to women because it does seem to happen more often to women just because there's not as many female characters.
Well,
but it's go ahead.
You're missing a little bit of my point. John, okay. Let's roll it back a bit. Steve Trevor, right?
Yep.
Remember how he was not powered at all?
Yes.
How hard would it have been for, Cheetah or one of Wonder Woman's villains to do something like that to him, to make him a man in a refrigerator,
He would have been broken into 16 pieces in 4 seconds.
But even with the ease of access towards that idea, you never see it in comics. It's always the women that get it.
Mm-hmm.
There's really, of my many, many, many years of comic book reading, I can only really think of one example, and that's Uncle Ben.
Yep.
Yeah, but it happens at the very start of the story. That's basically the tragic backstory rather than something happening later in the comic. Because of lazy writing.
Yeah. I think the women in refrigerators trope is more an established idea. you've had this character for X number of years and you want to do something to forward him just a little bit more. Whereas Uncle Ben was literally the impetus for Spider-Man as a character.
Right.
Yeah, it never felt lazy to Uncle Ben. And I'm sure you could argue that some female characters dying at some points are necessary, just as some male characters dying at some points are necessary. But it seems to just be this focus on it because there's so many more examples, I guess, where it's happened. Actually, a spin-off that's come about, and excuse my language, it's called Faggots in Fridges, where they do the same but for a gay couple, where one of them has died because, you know, it's basically the same thing. Instead of a male-female couple, it's a male-male or a female-female couple.
Yeah, I think the main reason... There's a lot of really dumb reasons for all of that to be happening. It's just sloppy writing.
Now, we have to take a moment to appreciate how British John was. I have said fucker like 37 times. I called Jordan the N-word, but this little bastard has to apologize for saying faggot.
I'm British. What do you?
He's amazingly British. Give him a break. But just to make one final thing, and then we can move on from the whole women in fridges thing. I think part of the reason, not just because it does seem to happen more often to female characters, there's also a societal element to it where we want to protect women.
Mm-hmm.
So by seeing these women being killed off or mutilated, depowered, whatever, it triggers something in a lot of people. And I think for some people, it triggers something so powerfully emotionally that they're like, oh God, this is everywhere. Even though it doesn't happen nearly as often as I think people like to treat it. Like, I think Gail Simone is one of those people who treats it like it happens all the fucking time, when in reality, it does. Well, it doesn't. It especially doesn't happen that much anymore.
Even if you look on the autism is TV tropes, just look at all the entries. There aren't that many compared to what's been the plethora of comics.
Yeah,
and time comics have been around.
I know we don't like to go into the politics much, but if you'll indulge me for one sentence, Gail Simone is everything wrong with modern day feminism.
Yeah.
You can just take out the modern day portion of that and just say she's everything wrong with feminism.
Well, no, because there are older feminists that I do actually have respect for.
Well, yes, but much of the issues that we see with modern day feminism kind of go back to even early, maybe not early as first wave, which would have been women's suffrage and stuff, but looking at the first wave of when they actually called it feminism, so second wave feminism with the whole bra burning and shit.
Yeah.
She perfectly exemplifies all the worst, because that's where that whole kill all men thing first came from.
Mm-hmm.
From people, what the fuck is that one feminist name? The one who basically said to put men in concentration camps and let women...
Oh, fuck. Oh,
check them out like a fucking book or some shit.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember the name.
Yeah, I can't think.
Yeah, I can't think of it. There's radicals for every ideology and movement. Radicals happen, and they're crazy. And those are the only people we really think about when we think about anything. We don't think about the more reasonable folks.
Mm-hmm.
And because reasonable folks don't go making spectacles of themselves. Everyone loves to talk about spectacles. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
But when we're getting into comics are largely socially liberal, and anyone can get superpowers, anyone can do an amazing thing, but you have to actually go out and do it. You can't just sit around praying. I mean, even Oracle, all she can do is sit around. She used technology to continue doing something useful instead of just going, oh me, oh my. Oh, whoa, I'm so sad, I can't do anything anymore. No, she did stuff. She found a way. And that's why, comics, no matter who you are, you can find a way. Which is why I hate what they did to her. After Oracle.
Are we getting to that rant time? We getting to that point?
We're about to get to it. Because you know what? I'm looking at the time. We're already halfway done with this episode. And we haven't even gotten to the good part yet. Let's skip a bit forward, shall we?
Oh, my body is ready.
Oh, God, I fucking hate this. The fact we're even going to bring it up. I'm trying to find a year for it. New 52 was, around 2011?
Yeah, it began in 2011.
Under the New 52, the sliding time scale was altered, and Killing Joke happened 3 years previous in the continuity. So for 3 years, Barbara Gordon has been a paraplegic. But this is where DC starts shooting itself in the foot. She undergoes experimental surgery to regain her mobility.
No.
They took a character who was defined in all the right ways by the fact she was disabled and said, hey, let's do what the one thing these people who like this character can never do and fix them.
Hadn't one of the previous people in charge of DC promised that they weren't going to do that?
Yes, they had said for 20 fucking years that they were never going to have Barbara Gordon walk again, that they would keep Oracle because the character meant so much to the disabled comic readers. So when New 52 comes across, New 52 shot DC in the foot, period. It fucked up so much that's not even funny. We could probably have an entire 3-part fucking gigantic episode on just how bad.
Please no.
We never will.
Well,
I
John
promise
just,
you.
He said, please no, now we have to do it.
No, I promise you, because I will not put myself through that.
Okay, fine.
But
New 52 is everything that's wrong with humanity. Right.
Well, you know what I think is really fucking funny? Because, it was the New 52 that effectively destroyed Batgirl as a character. Do you know who became the writer for Batgirl back when New 52 launched? Gail fucking Simone.
amazing, isn't it?
Amazing.
Wait. Gail Simone?
Gail Simone
did it.
She's the one who fucking uncrippled her.
Purposely to take her off that list,
Why
Glenn.
did she uncripple her?
That's why. To remove her from being a woman in a refrigerator in her own mind.
Wasn't on her refrigerator.
That's why I said that last phrase.
Crippled and found a better way to live than being a clone of Batman.
That's why I worded it the way I did. She did it to remove it in her own mind. I'm sorry, but if you've ever been operating under the idea Gail Simone is not persona non grata,
I didn't even really know who she was.
Gwen, she's why we can't have nice things as disabled
She's
people.
why we can't have nice things. Okay, then. We need to get rid of her in the name of all that is holy.
But the thing is that what really here's where you're going to hear me fucking rant, Jordan.
From writing.
Here we go. Here's a rant for you, Jordan.
All right, I'm ready.
Not only did they fucking make her walk again, they did it in the most hand-wavy thing possible. She went through all these, I think it was like a year or so, of experimental surgeries, and they never fucking showed any of it. Very little of the recovery from it. You know, all the hard parts of learning how to walk again and shit. They didn't
because
show
that was the first thing that's the first thing I think about. Like, okay, if in the story she's been crippled for 3 years. Now, I'm not sure. I mean, Jason, you probably know because your legs don't work very well. But from what I understand, if you have no use of your legs for like more than a couple months and they're not constantly moving the muscles around, your legs are basically unfucking usable if you do get feeling back after like 6 fucking months.
They're atrophied. You have to go through about a year of fucking physical therapy. Intense physical therapy.
Yeah, intense. Yeah. Like, it causes severe fucking pain.
Oh, dude, hold on. Let me get a little personal with this, because I actually have undergone physical therapy to help me not regain the ability to walk, but to strengthen my ability to walk.
Mm-hmm.
That is some of the most painful shit you can do to yourself. Yes, it does, breed results, but it hurts. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of pushing yourself through pain.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Well, that's not a real big problem for a fucking superhero, but why couldn't they have just shown it? Why couldn't they have at least said, okay, we're gonna undo our promise and we're gonna fix her, but we're at least gonna take you on the fucking journey?
Yeah, they could have shown her going through like the tears and pain of learning to walk again after not being able to for 3 years. But then again, that would have made her an interesting character. That would have retained interest. Because they could have alluded to after she regained her ability to walk, the fear of becoming crippled again.
Right.
They could have done so much interesting things with that character. But of course they fucking didn't. They just like, oh, she can fucking walk again now, and oh, she's just like a regular girl. Tee-hee, isn't that great?
No, it's not.
You're right. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's not, because everything interesting about the character
is that you're not regular. You're either something tragic. You're unhinged in some way. That's generally superheroes. Even Superman's not perfect.
And that's, well, put it this way: at least Superman, his flaws are in his character, not his body. You know.
Mm.
Well, yeah, but you can't. But still, oh, she's just like a normal girl. Tee-hee-hee. It's like, no, that's not superheroes. Superheroes aren't the normal people.
There's some depth to the word hero. It doesn't always mean the guy who's fighting the bad guy for the little people.
No.
Sometimes it just means somebody someone can look up to, see something of themselves in it, and say, I can relate. And that's the kind of hero Barbara Gordon worked the best as. The one that I could look at her and just say, I know that feel.
Yeah, I mean, other people could go, like, I had some friends who read it, and they're like, you know, because one of the people I used to know was in a wheelchair. Everyone's like, you know, you're in a wheelchair, but you can still do something. He didn't read comics, and they're like, oh, yeah, of course I can. Yeah, because they read the comics, it gave them a better appreciation for the fact that disabled folks can, if they work at it, still do something with themselves. It helped everyone.
So, Gwen, you want to hear something that's going to make you hate Gail Simone even more?
Be annoyed at, sure, but I don't have the energy to hate anymore. Go on.
Anyway, like, one of the first villains that Barbara Gordon got with the new 52 run of Batgirl was literally a villain by the name of Gretel, who was a psychic who had the power to control the minds of men and only men.
What?
Oh.
Oh god, the fucking ideology coming in the writing, it's so fucking good. Oh shit.
You know what? I think it's time we actually make our first declaration as graded 0.5. And
Fuck
that's
Gail Simone.
No, Gail Simone, retire.
Please.
Never pick up a pencil again. Never write another page, another panel. Do us all a favor and fade into obscurity.
Please, if you really do care about women, stop writing.
Maybe we'll get lucky and there is a sense of fucking justice and karma in this reality. And one day she'll get shot through the spine. Let's see her walk.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's a dick thing to wish on anyone. Maybe not get shot through the spine. I'm not going to go that far with it. I'm hoping one day she has it taken away from her. You know, like fucks up an arm or her knees or some shit. And she has to see for a moment what people like Gwen and I are seeing and living. Just so she can know how much of a cunt she is for saying we can hand wave it away. Because there is so much wrong with me. There is no hand waving. It would take dozens of surgeries to get my body back to normal, if it could even work. And to sit there and say, oh, we're going to take something you can actually hold on to and say, in a way, is your own. And just hand wave it and say, oh, it was a broken thing we just fixed. Fuck
right.
you.
No.
Just fuck you. Like, I can't even think of words strong enough. If Gail Simone was in here with us, I would be at a loss for words of what to say to her. Because
I have plenty of words. I'd ask her why she hated women.
Oh, I've got, plenty of little
and
fucking...
disabled.
I got plenty of little fucking things like that, but at the same time,
No, I get what you're trying to say, Jason.
How do you fucking communicate your anger at just being brushed off?
Mm.
And basically being told there's no place in a world of heroes for people like you.
Yeah, I mean, that... Jesus Christ, that's fucking like right in the feels. You just hit me. God damn. Because that is kind of the sentiment that got made with that. Oh, we have this crippled character. She's not crippled anymore. It's no big deal. But like, what about all the crippled people who enjoy this character because of what she represents, and represents the fact that even though your body might be broken, there's other stuff that you can do with your intellect or whatever to make you still very much valuable to people who you want to protect. And we'll just fucking fix her fucking broken body. It's fine, guys. It's fine.
I mean, there is such a thing as breaking something to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I think we got really with Batgirl. You know, we got a third banana who was able to step up, head her own team, head her own book because she was broken. Yeah. But it fixed her as a character.
Mm.
It gave her that depth, that something to latch on to. And then just to take it all away. It's like, really, are you going to... I'm going to have to make a sick joke out of this, but are you really going to pull the rug out from under somebody who can't fucking walk?
I don't know. I mean, they basically just took her wheelchair away. She didn't need it. She could just crawl.
Yeah, it's like there was...
Instead of Batgirl, she's now Worm Girl.
There was a scene in Ultimate X-Men that I loved. Mr. Sinister has captured Charles Xavier and is pushing him around in his wheelchair. And he's like, I'm going to introduce you to your worst enemy. And Xavier's like, what? And he goes, stairs, and fucking chucks him down a flight.
Oh my god. That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Just replace Sinister with Gail Simone and Xavier with every fucking disabled person who saw Oracle as an inspiration.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what's worse is we can't even go back to, relying on Professor X as a disabled fucking hero, because he's fucking dead.
Yeah. He's still dead? They haven't brought him back?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
part of his brain that controlled his telepathy is currently in Red Skull. But other than that, he's dead.
Oh, shit.
It's like we're really to the point where there's not really much for disabled heroes in comics. Unless you want to go into mental disability.
I was going to say, you know what that means then, right?
But
gotta start making our own. Mental disability. Fucking. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, Gwen.
Well, that's what makes Batman and his Rogues Gallery more interesting than the entire rest of the DC universe. It's a bunch of crazies. They're all crazy, and they're all broken because of bad things that have happened to them. I mean... And Batman often sees that how they were broken by others, and he wants them to be fixed. I mean, if you look at the Penguin's past, or Poison Ivy's past, look at the past of most of his Rogues Gallery, and tragic shit happened to them, but he decided he'd rather go beat up people that were causing trouble instead of being the one to cause the trouble. The everyday folk. I mean, he still causes trouble for the other people, but Batman and his Rogues Gallery, it's a bunch of fucking mentally disabled people fighting and having come to different conclusions about where they are in the world.
I mean, it's so prevalent in Batman that, I mean, what's the one place all the villains go to? They never go to jail. They go to the asylum until they break out again.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a very serious question for you, Jason and Glenn.
They get redeemed.
Yeah.
Okay. If you eat out Poison Ivy, will that kill you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Without question.
Yes. Her kiss is toxic. All of her bodily fluids are toxic.
Oh,
yeah,
that's rough, man. No wonder she's a fucking villain.
However, wait. Point of order. It would also depend on the writer, because she did have a lesbian relationship with Harley Quinn.
Oh, God. Can we not talk about that?
Something that made Harley immune.
And Harley, actually, I believe there's a couple, at least one point I can remember, that Harley does make a joke about eating out Poison Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
She makes something about, I'll need some What's the stuff you rub on yourself when you've been stung by a nettle? Doc. She was like, I'm going to need some dock leaves for my tongue. And it was just like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
See, but
To read that
that's funny
shit.
So,
writing.
as she was originally written, it would have killed you, but with what's been done to her in the modern era, no, it would not.
Okay, well, at least we're
Well, she
asking the
can
very
make
important
you
questions
immune,
here.
I think it is what it is. Like,
It's-
she's a scientist. She basically created the thing that transformed her. It stands to right that if she wanted someone to be immune, she could make them so.
You just got to build up your immunity, so you just give it a lick every once in a while. Just a single lick. Just okay. Well, I'm gonna go almost die, and I'll be back in like 2 days.
But
well, actually, we are at the end of the show. I want to close with a hypothetical. Let's say instead of Barbara Gordon in The Killing Joke, it had been Dick Grayson. Do you think it would have went over as well? Do you think we would have seen Dick Grayson in an Oracle role?
No, I can guarantee you we wouldn't have, because it's like you had mentioned before. It's all about, for men, it's all about overcoming that disability, like when Batman had his spine broken. I think it would have been interesting. Just seeing more of that play out in general would have been cool in my mind, but I don't think with a male character you would have ever seen that.
well, you do see Nightwing when trying to get out of Bruce's shadow into his own thing, which was pretty neat.
Yeah.
But it's not quite on the level of Oracle.
Yeah.
But it's like we both pointed out, every time you get a male character, if they'd shot fucking Dick Grayson through the spine, the next year of Batman would have been about his rehabilitation, returning to costume.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Instead of 20 years of good, relatable stories featuring a powerful, relatable character.
Yep. In a way, that's kind of sad for men that they don't get that kind of stuff.
But yeah, well, guys, this has been another episode of Grade Point 5. I think it came out pretty good. We hope you enjoyed yourself, and by all means, support your local comic shop. Pick up some of early Birds of Prey. Batman No Man's Land had a really good Oracle story in it. Get The Killing Joke.
Just for the love of God, do not support Gail Simone's fucking writing.
Yeah, don't pick up, I think it's like Oracle the Cure or something like that.
Something like that.
But yeah, support your local comic shops, and while you're at it, support the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, because we need somebody, preserving First Amendment rights in the industry. And they're doing a damn good job. But yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week.